Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Selling to the CIO podcast. Today I have a special guest on the line with us. Michael, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
Doing well.
Awesome. Love to hear a little bit about yourself, your story, your journey through IT, if you wouldn't mind, and we'll get started helping sales reps out there.
Sure. Well, the journey in IT begins with selling vacuum cleaners of all things door to door in the mid 80s. Um, that was quite the experience, but this will all be relevant as we get to what the topic of the day, because that's my sales background. And literally going door to door selling rainbow vacuums. For 8 years, I did that.
Wow.
Um, yeah, that's crazy right there. So that's hardcore sales, right?
Yes.
Um, from there, I actually got into selling IT at a warehouse. This is before the days of CDW, a place called Micro Warehouse. And I literally didn't know anything about IT. My uncle was an IT guy, so he taught me some things. But I literally didn't know. So I went and aced the interview somehow, got the job, and I brought home their catalog. And I literally read that catalog cover to cover every day. I knew what the cables did. I knew everything there was to know. And this was around 1993, 94. So it was the early days. Um, I quickly became the top sales guy at Micro Warehouse, President's Club, all that. And literally only because I knew the products. I knew that catalog. I knew where it was. You asked me a question, and underneath the phone, because it's before videos, I knew right where to go to get that. And I knew when you got a printer, I knew to include like the USB cable or the serial cable or what it needed, right? I quickly got into support because of my knowledge. Then I went back to school for programming, and I became the nighttime manager. And for the first time in the history of that company, the nighttime crew outsold the daytime crew. And the theme here is knowledge from a sales perspective, right? What gave me this success was I knew all the products, and
Yeah.
that's what gave me the edge. So from there, I got the support, right? So I floundered a little here and then. This was about 2000, about around 2000, the big crush came, and Micro Warehouse got bought out by CDW.
Yeah.
Um, so here I am, I got offered to move to Chicago to go with CDW or Connecticut, and I said no to both. So I was literally the last person to get the tap on the shoulder at a Micro Warehouse, and I was out of there. So I went to Softmart, which was a software catalog company. I sold there for a little while, and then I got an ad in my mailbox, and it was for this virtual school. This was 2000, 2001. My wife told me you're complaining about this software sales because it was very limited, just software. That's all they did, licensing and stuff, and that way wasn't anything. All right. I wanted to get back in support, so she said, "Gave me the brochure." So called this company. It was K-12 in 2000, 2001. So I didn't do it. A couple weeks later, we got another brochure. They marketed us. And long story short, she said, "Did you call him?" I said, "No." She picked up the phone, gave me the phone. The secretary passed me through to the CEO. This was August of 2000. Um, and literally, I was talking to the CEO, or it's 2001, sorry. I was talking to the CEO on the beach. She was on the beach. And I met her in Philadelphia the next day for an interview. And that's when I became the first technology hire for K-12 in the country. Went to this brand new virtual K-12 school that was going to replicate what colleges were doing, but in a K-12 environment. That is, kids will be in their house, remote. This is 2001 now, in their house, learning K-12 curriculum in their house on a computer. So I walked into an office that literally didn't know how to do anything. For an example, their Outlook, they couldn't connect their Outlook, so they used the dial-up um, servers for Outlook because there was some problem with their firewall. Again, 2001. This was like a um, witch doctor stuff at that time. So I was able to fix that and some other problems. And from there, I just built really the virtual school environment. This was the early days of virtual schools in the country. I believe I was the second or third virtual technology guy in the country, the first in Pennsylvania. And I did that for the next 10 years. Advanced and became a director, senior director, all that. Went to K-12, worked to them for about 5 years, and I came back to Pennsylvania in 2016, where I am now, and I'm the chief information officer to, as you see behind me, the Agora Cyber Charter School. I serve about 5,800 students, about 700 employees, and it's a one-to-one situation, so a lot of computers.
That's
There you
awesome.
go.
That's a great journey. And what I like about the journey, what's relevant for us here on this call and this podcast is that you started on the sales side of the house, right? Early on. So you get what a relationship means, and we'll talk more about that and the importance of that. And and also knowing what you're selling, right? So
Yeah,
you mentioned that as well. So the knowledge of what you're selling, along with making sure you build relationships along the way is has been a key to your success. And I'm sure you still utilize those principles now in the role that you have.
absolutely.
Yeah. So so you know the premise of this podcast, right? We're trying to shine some light on some of the mistakes and some of the good things that sales reps are doing out there these days to get your attention, to educate you, to try to get your attention, right? Especially now
Mhm.
in these COVID times, right? For the last 2 years, it's hard to get as much face-to-face time as you would like, but I get you're used to doing online, right? That's your business essentially,
Yeah,
right? So, I don't know. Why don't you, if you don't mind, giving us a few examples or talking to us a little bit about what's important to you, um, as far as what a good sales professional does and what they provide and how they support you.
absolutely. So obviously, I do come this from both angles. I am
Yeah,
now on the other side. So guys, the sales guys are trying to get to me now, but I
yeah,
definitely know what it's like to be on the other side trying to get to people like me. So as I stated earlier, the first thing that I find when I talk to, when and we'll get to how I get to me, but real briefly, the positives is, like I stated, knowledge. You know what you're doing. Do not fabricate or snow somebody. If you don't know, I find it very refreshing when a sales guy talks to me and says, "Listen, that's not my wheelhouse. We have resources for that. Let me take a note, and I'll get you that answer." Do not make up an answer because chances are the person, if you're talking to him, you got to that person, is going to test you with some little throwouts to see if you know what you're saying and if you're going to snow him. If you're going to snow me from the beginning, chances are you're going to snow me with backlogs, ETAs, price, solutions. Okay,
yeah,
it works. So knowledge is king.
yep,
So know what you're doing. Um, some of the other items and let's talk about getting to me now. So that to me that's a biggie. Just know and don't be making stuff up. Know
yep,
what you're talking about. But how do you get to that point? I think is the real crux of this topic. Um, One of the first things you want to remember when you first attempt, and you're doing a cold call or a warm call or whatever the method is you're using to get to somebody. Um, Today you have an advantage I never had, and that is all the social media. Research your client. I mean, don't just get a page of names and start calling people. Spend the time, 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it is, on that person. Go Google them, Bing them, whatever you use. Look for LinkedIn, look at them. Let's use me as an example. If you were to my LinkedIn, you would see that I've been in K to 12, a leadership position in technology for over 21 years. Chances are I have a few vendors that I've used for a long, long time.
yeah.
Chances are I've made many mistakes. 21 years later, I'm not green, so you wouldn't approach me with the intent of flipping my vendors initially, because think about that. If you call me and the first thing you want to do is break a long-standing relationship I have with me, do you want a long-standing relationship or just want a one and done deal? Right? So approaching me, there's a very tender area here. You don't want to attack what I'm doing. You want to find out what I'm doing and where the pitfalls are. By attacking what I'm doing, you're saying after 21 years, you don't know what you're doing. Your vendors are no good. You're an idiot. I have no time for you.
And I've known reps in my history, friends of mine who are just so abrupt that I've, told stories that like if you're not using my technology, you should be fired, right? It's like I guess it works for some, right? So some of these folks I know have been successful doing that, but I just never understood that, right? You're right. Yeah, you've been at this for a long time. You have very long-term relationships, and you said something to me last time I spoke or last time I met you about selling the relationship and not the
Yep.
product. And that
Right.
really resonated with me and really stuck with me about what you said. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, but
Sure.
that to me is crucial.
So that plays into the when you call your client, and let's say it is a tenured client, and chances are if you're talking to a C-level person, he didn't just graduate college. Okay? Chances are he's been around a little bit to get to that level.
Yeah.
So he has some history, right? So when we're talking at a decision-making level of a bigger corporation with a bigger budget, chances are this is not his first week or her at that position. So relationship becomes key, knowledge and relationship. Because the secret is there's nothing new under the sun. You're not the only one that sells a network cable or a service or a DevOps. You're not the only guy that does this. There's like, a whole internet out there that I can find somebody does what you do.
Yeah.
And don't tell me you're the best because everybody is the best when you talk to them. How's everybody the best? Well, nobody, there's no such thing as the best. Nobody's going to be the best at anything. Got to tell you, there's always somebody better tomorrow.
Yep.
So what you can be the best at is, again, being honest, knowing what you do, and that relationship. And the relationship comes like this: being honest. Listen, this is not our wheelhouse, but I happen to know a colleague that does that. I have many relationships with companies that have done that, and that's why they're still with me because they've known where like they're good at networking, but the cybersecurity it was they can do it, but they know somebody does it better. To me, that's great. You're not going to snow me with a wheelhouse situation that you're just going to get the sale out of me. You'd rather lose that cybersecurity contract, but keep everything else. And to me, that's why you're with me 10, 15 years later, because you didn't suck me in, and then all the great you did over here, you just destroyed with this. Because like the bad apple in the basket analogy, you brought in cybersecurity, and now you're terrible. So now your company's no good
Yeah.
because you ingested something you should not have done.
Yeah. Very good guidance and advice. So back to the of getting to somebody like you.
Yep.
Right? You've been in this business a long time, in the same industry for a long time. Like you said, you probably have some very long-term relationships. And thankfully we're lucky to be one of them. What would for some new folks out there just getting into it, right? Just getting into sales, getting into technology sales, and they, Agora's on my hit list. How do I get to this guy, Michael? What's the best way to do it? Do I call his people? Do I go above them? What advice would you give, somebody young in career to just try to get an audience with, with somebody
Right.
like yourself or your company for that matter?
So let's use me because I know me better than anybody else. You want to get to me, and you're a person just starting out. How do you get to me? Again, you have tools that are just amazing.
Yeah.
Resources. Here's the resource for me. Clearly, I'm in K to 12 education, primarily majority of the time in Pennsylvania, primarily with a school that's been associated with a K-12 is a Crippen company, right? So you would find that out. Then you would probably research to see if there was any other virtual schools in Pennsylvania, or maybe get an understanding how virtual schools work.
Yep.
So when you approach me, you're not starting with, so tell me about your company. Why are you calling me that? Everybody starts with, tell me about your company. And I hang up. Oh, you have the time to find out why you're calling me. I got time to tell you. Go find out and call me back. It's out there. We have a website. We have an industry, K-12 virtual schools across the country, international. Find out. Do your job. And then come and say, hey, you're a CIO for a virtual school. I know there's like 13 cyber schools in the state of Pennsylvania right now. What are you guys are looking to do to differentiate yourself against your customer? If you said that to me, I'm going to hold the phone. Whoa, there's 13 virtual schools in the state of Pennsylvania, and you're asking me, what do I need to differentiate myself out of the pack? Oh, now we can talk. You do this, you do this. I don't care what other people are doing. You know that I have competition in the state. I want to do something they're not to elevate my school. You're talking my language, right?
Yeah, bring something to the table for sure, right?
Bring
Don't
something to the
don't
table
hang
that's
around like
relevant to the experience in the industry.
yeah, don't I don't want to, I hear this from the technology leadership folks like yourself. I don't want to educate you, right? I don't have time for that. You got me on the line. You better be educating me on some stuff that is relevant to my business, right? So that's an awesome point. Appreciate
And keep in mind, when you're talking to somebody that's a higher level or decision maker, you're going to have a couple of minutes to
yeah,
really, like I said, you start with the wrong sentence. I'm checking out, man.
it's
So
true.
you
Yeah.
need to hit it hard, and hitting hard with, "Hey, thank you for answering the phone call or however you got through to me. Listen, I know there's about 13 virtual cyber schools in the state of Pennsylvania. Agora's been around since 2006. What do you guys need to do to make yourselves the best?" You don't think I'm going to say, "Whoa, that's a whole lot different than hi. Um, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. What are you guys looking to do? You tell me who's going to get my attention."
That's awesome. So great advice, Michael. So we're actually, see, we're up against it. We're already, that was the fastest 15-minute conversation that you hopefully ever had, right? And because it's a passionate topic for both of us, and time flies when you're having fun and you're talking stuff like this. So,
Know what you're doing.
tru-
Is the bottom
yeah,
line.
I truly appreciate it. This is great advice. Hopefully, folks appreciate it and take it to heart and utilize it. And again, I appreciate your friendship and your partnership, and we'll continue to drive this forward. So thanks a million for being on with us.
I hope it helps some of your people.
Absolutely. Thanks, Michael. Have a great day.
Thank you, too.